with me. The dog is not happy with me. She isn't. I'm working. I'm going to work right now. We'll play soon. We'll go back outside. Okay. We'll soon. We'll go walk for a walk soon, okay? Good morning. It is January 7th, 2024. I was really close about to say 2023, but it's 2024. And so far so good. I did not want to get up right now. I did want to get up today. I did not want to get up right now. And I think I told you about this last week when I was off. For the holidays and all that stuff. I was looking forward to sleeping in and all that good stuff. But this dog woke me up every day. 7:00. Sometimes 7:30, but 7:00. And I couldn't really sleep in unless I went to sleep early, so to speak. That kind of depletes the purpose, right? So yeah, all is well on my end. Let me check something real quick. I'm already at the computer, so it should be really quick. There we go. As I thought. Still no answer from Amazon brand registry. I did send them an email Monday, and they still have not gotten back to me. They're still thinking about it. So I need to go on. I need to move on. I think it's going to happen. It is going to happen. It will happen. It's just right now, I need to do other things anyway in order to get things moving and going. So my bags, they come in. They look pretty good. It's only drawback with them, if I have to say as a drawback, is that when you do double stamp, it it kind of bleeds into the other side, you know. So you kind of see the imprint of what's on the other side. But other than that, it's fine. It does crease over when you fill it all the way to the 2 pound. But for pictures, I'll just fill it like halfway or 2/3 of a way and take pictures. And then, of course, when somebody orders, the orders are ready to rock and roll or send out to Amazon, they're going to be filled up all the way. So the crease is going to be what it is and all that good stuff. But other than that, that's going well. I finalized the sample bags for the for the sample bags, and then what else? So that should be to me the next couple of weeks. Yeah, next couple of weeks, and I'm just moving and grooving. I've actually started to take YouTube a little bit more seriously, if that makes sense. I actually put out a video yesterday. It was grainy as can be, even 4K and all that good stuff, but it's okay. I will work on that. I spent some time messing around with DaVinci Resolve, and I think I did okay. I just do need to get better, kind of figure out a couple of things. But, just trying to get a little bit better. I was going to spend more time on it, but I didn't because it's a lot of work. And I want to do other things. And good enough is sometimes just good enough. This kind of reminds me of these podcasts, right? I started No Clue, and I think I mentioned it a couple of times already, but it's getting better. I know it's getting better. I'm slowing down. I'm thinking things out. I have topics from time to time, but a lot of times I can just talk about whatever, right? So speaking of coffee, business coffee, personally, like I mentioned in the YouTube video, I not too much of a fan of this coffee so far. I think I will roast a sample batch today and document it, and see how that works with everybody. But I think for the next batch that I do roast, it's going to be low and slow, right? So I'm going to try to go for a 10-minute first crack, and then probably a minute and a half, that base, and then pull it, right? I may do a dark roast. I'm still contemplating on that, you know. So we shall see. I may bust out 150 grams, 150 grams. That's going to bring it down to about 300. No, it's going to bring it down to about 120, 125. That may be enough. I may do that, but I have to keep the fire down. Okay, so what I'm talking about, not to keep you in the dark, talking to myself, is that with roasting's like cooking, right? You have something in its current solid state, right? And you're trying to make it more, in this case, yeah, edible, right? But you're trying to make it to where you do wake it up, so to speak, if that makes sense. Nobody is looking to anybody for green coffee except for roasters, right? But what you do with that coffee is that you heat it up in a certain way for a period of time at a temperature or different temperatures along the journey of that coffee being roasted, right? So let me get this out. Hello. Okay. And it changes, right? Even though the coffee may smell great in the beginning in the green phase, it it changes, and it's the whole Maillard reaction, how when you cook something, it changes form. The coffee is extremely dense and heavy when it's in green form. It's like a rock. But as you keep roasting it, it gets lighter, more pronounced, smells and flavors come out even more so. And and then you go ahead and finish it off at a degree level where it makes sense to you, to your palate, and all that good stuff. So, like I said, it's like cooking. I'm not gonna do steak. Steak is kind of cliche and easy, right? But let's just use eggs, for instance. Theoretically, you can eat eggs raw, right? But for instance, you're not going for that. That's not the end goal with the eggs when you're cooking, because you're cooking. You're trying to change the state to where you feel that it's edible, it's tasty, right? And it's the way that you want it. And of course, there's different variations in egg making. But let's just take sunny side up, right? So you have an egg, you have a fryer, you have a temperature, and the egg is cold or room temp or whatnot, and you put it in the fryer. Again, you're changing the state of the food. So a lot of times you kind of cook on medium heat because you don't want to cook it too fast. Or sometimes you do want to cook it really fast. So you kind of fry cook it, and then depending on the doneness that you want, you pull the egg. And, that's as simple as it gets to try to explain what I'm trying to go after. With roasting, you can kind of do the same thing. You can put the coffee in. You got it's like an oven with a rotisserie basket inside of it. And it just constantly spins, Yeah, this is exactly like a rotisserie, but it's more contained. Sometimes rotisserie can be contained too, especially if it's in an oven. But the one that I'm usually thinking about is rotisserie that's outside in a kettle grill, to where the temperature below where the fire is usually is a lot hotter, warmer than the top of the grill, right? But since you're constantly spinning it, it's it's uh it's getting even heat, so to speak, as long as that fire is theoretically more so even, right? But with roasting, the main fire is still at the bottom because the flames come up, and then you have the vessel that is heated up from the bottom. There's so many different roasters out there. Sometimes they have roasters that don't have a flame at the bottom. They have off to the side, and they bring in the hot air. It does a different job. It still more so tastes the same, but for my roaster, the flame is at the bottom, and it's constantly spinning. And in my case, there's no grooves to the actual basket, so it doesn't necessarily the coffee doesn't necessarily spin all the way to the top. You're just more so moving the coffee from the hot spot to different variations of the circle, and more so half of the circle. But that rotation is constantly spinning, so it's hot at first, and then it moves, and then it gets a little warmer, a little cooler, because it's not right next to the flame, and then it goes back down. And then you can also play around with rotation speed. So you can make it fast, you can make it slow, but if you make it too slow, the coffee's contact time to the hot metal can scorch and burn, and then you can kind of taste those flavors when you're when you get the end product, you know. So we try to prevent against that, have it at a decent amount of rotation. So yeah, so in this case, what I'm thinking out loud, what I'll do with this Kenyan coffee is roast it two ways, is that I'll keep the temperature extremely low. I haven't done this in a while, but I'm more so trying to conserve the coffee and just get a little taste before I really start to do bigger roast out of this batch coffee roaster. So the max is 300 grams. It's less than a pound of coffee that you can put in there, right? So when you do that, you roast it and have a decent amount of heat on it. Application, I like to let it warm for at least 5 to 10 minutes. And then usually that first roast will get me where I need to be on that 10-minute mark. But I think what I'll try to do this time is warm it up correctly. So a little bit longer, so about 15 minutes, and then keep the temperature slow, because I'll be doing two batches. One is going to be 150 grams, and the other one is also going to be at the same. But this time what I'll do is one is going to be for medium roast, and then light to medium, and then the other one's going to be for dark roast. I'm curious to see what this coffee tastes like as a dark roast, and I think for the most part, that's where it's going to be the sweet spot. I really do think most of these kind of funky, crazy coffees, they really do shine as a darker roast, but we shall see. And normally the way I go about roasting too is that I read a book a while back ago. I read many books about roasting, about coffee in general. Just thinking about it, wow, I did all that. And the thing about it is that there's so many different philosophies in roasting as it is in life, right? or routines or things that people do. And usually what people say is that there's three phases. You have the green coffee, you have the yellow phase, green to yellow, and then yellow to brown, and then the dry phase and all that stuff. So it's about three phases. You're pretty much saying that the coffee changes a couple times throughout the process, which is true, you know? And you can document that. You can go ahead and call it and all that stuff, but I think one of the last books I read, which is it's more simple, is that you have two phases. You have the cooking phase, and then you have, so to speak, the final stage. And the cooking stage is like from start to first crack. And first crack happens once the gases and everything releases and all that. I don't want to say all that stuff, it's just technically true. I don't want to get on my soapbox right now, but about how people who don't really know, even though me being an engineer, I should know more, but I don't come to profess that, right? People who think that they know about gases and sugars and all that stuff start saying that, and they don't really understand it. They're just regurgitating that information. That's really one of my biggest pet peeves, but that's besides the point. But again, the coffee is releasing something. It's getting lighter. And in this case, for coffee uniquely, it puffs up and it cracks. And that's when things really start hitting the road. Yeah, of course, the way you roast, if you're fast or slow, depending on the coffee, sometimes different coffees, it doesn't even matter, right? Like a lot of times with Brazilian coffees, at least for me, especially it doesn't have too much acid. You can roast it fast, you can roast it slow, you can bake it, you can fucking, but the thing about it is that the taste of it is it's not the same. I mean, in this case, for Brazilian, it is more so the same. But but for different other coffees, it does change the characteristics. But not to the point where it's unrecognizable. I mean, sure, if you put it like line it up next to each other, and you go about it that way, you can tell differences in it. But a lot of times it's not that big of a deal, Yeah, I said it. A lot of times I don't cup. We'll talk about that in another episode. But a lot of times we taste coffee. We do it back to back, and we try to see if there's a real big difference, especially if it's more so roasted the same. And there are some variations, but not something to kill yourself over. But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking with this coffee, just to get an idea of what will happen, what will make sense, and all that good stuff. And this journey is going to be fun, And then I think I'll do it about 2 weeks now. Taste it in 2 weeks, because I realize that this is going to be a long process because I let it sit. It's just one of those things where it's best to let it sit. So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, a little bit about roasting right now. I talked about that. If you want to know more, let me know. But I don't think me going too technical in the weeds of it will help out as much for you. But if it does, let me know. But yeah, so once that coffee comes out, I'll rest it for a couple of weeks, and then I'll test it again and kind of get an idea of what we're dealing with, and then deal with that process and go about it that way. So that should be a lot of fun, I would think, So what do I have going for this week? More YouTube videos, more understanding and learning and discovery. A lot of self continuing education that I'm doing in YouTube and other stuff too. So I'm overwhelmed right now. Well, I I think I thought about that when I was in the morning or last night. Is that I'm not really so much overwhelmed. I keep using that word, but I'm getting the capacity is starting to be full, right? But I think once I get some type of traction and understanding and doing more, it will it will come down quite a bit just because, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I'm doing right now that that's unknown to me. And I don't have, processes developed right now in order for me to be more effective with the workflow, right? But yeah, so that's one of the things that I am trying to get better at, trying to figure out. But as I get better and figure it out, things are going to be what they need to be, and I can't wait to move forward with certain things. And I hope that you do see the quality getting better and all that stuff. For instance, I'm actually in a process of getting my studio office, whatever they say it is, in the right way. So I did remove a couple of things. I did sell the GoPro. I do have some more camera gear that's online that's not really doing anything, but we'll see. And then, but I am trying to get this thing in order so I can do more stuff inside of here so I can video record it, document it, and all that stuff. So I did pick up like a thrift, something outside. They have big trash pickup uh, on Monday, tomorrow. And I just put it out in the world that I needed a side table so I can um put a another studio arm on it. So yeah, so I can put another speaker so I can photograph from the computer to the place where I think that's going to be the most of the film is going to be. I may do a corner shot too, depending on the situation, but it doesn't look right. And I think even though looking at different pictures online on YouTube, kind of getting an idea of working with my space, is that's going to be it's going to be a process, right? So it's going to take time for things to actually make sense. And I'm not going to rush this, I remember, here's story time. I remember when I was in college. Oh, excuse me. It's looking pretty good if you want to know. So I'm thinking another day I'll be done with the least amount of medicine I've taken, just rest and water and water and water and all that good stuff. But story time. I remember when I was in college, and I'm less of that, but I'm still of that, where I did what did I do? I did car racing. So what we did in college is that we raced our cars, right? Our cars that our parents gave us. Sometimes we bought them, sometimes we didn't, but we raced cars. And when we did that, it was pretty cool, right? Because you like fix it up, modify it, and you're learning. I mean, it's not so much of engineering going on in that. It is, but it's not. You're just curious. You're just wanting to see what works and what doesn't work and how you can go faster or just spend money in general. I remember I did that quite a bit. My loans, that was my car funds. But I had a Nissan 240 SX, no SR20. If you know, you know. It was a KA 24DE, and then of course I put the T on it. So put a turbo on a 2.4 liter, 4-cylinder. But of course I did other stuff too, right? I did suspension, so I changed all the suspension workout. I did the coilovers. I changed the tires, got them bigger. Wheels, changed that. Bushings, changed the diff out. It was an open diff, so I changed that out too, and all that good stuff to a limited slip differential. So, but you know, it was in a span of a couple of years, right? I was in college for 5, found my crew probably sophomore year, and we just added at least 3 years. Just added. Just working on our cars, doing our thing. And then, of course, after college, I kept going down that rabbit hole for a little bit. Still did autocrossing, which autocrossing is crap. It's fun, but it's crap because you have to work too. And when you work, you have to stand in the middle of the thing. You're thinking about your life. I always hated that. So that's why I knew autocrossing. The cones, I think, should be brighter and bigger and all that stuff, but whatever. But the thing about modifying or doing things in general was that I did things fast. Again, it's a span of 2 to 3 years. Did that stuff fast. Coilovers, turbocharger, whatever else. I did it fast. It took no time in order to do that, those type of modifications to the vehicle. And I enjoyed it. But I also rushed it, right? And this process is going to take time. Probably faster than I think in certain cases. But it's going to take some time. And I'm looking forward to that actually, because as I think about it, analyze, open my eyes a little bit more, understand what people are saying, it's one of those things where I know it's only going to get better, right? And it's okay to take your time on things to really analyze what's going on. Like, for instance, this end table, I don't think I want it there. You know, I don't think I do. But I don't know yet. You know, that's kind of played out a little bit more. See how things look and everything. My wife did bring up a good point about space and how it's going to still stick out no matter what I do. Because the space, it's a decent amount of space, but there's other things that are already here that are not moving, that are making it even more constrained, you know? So yeah. So that's me in a nutshell. Little story time. Just taking my time with this, with everything. And I hope that this stuff finds you well. And I'll see you on the flip side, right? See you later. Bye-bye.